quotes for this movie. Irene, I am no hooker. Frank the trucker tossing her $20 bill. You are now.
She didn't accept the money, so she's not.
But you know what's sick about this scene, though? Going back to it, that is the screenwriter.
Yes.
That is a scene that he wrote, and he's tossing it to the actress. That's almost like a step, stand-in for a life. She's naked. She's naked on film, and she's getting paid for it. And he's like, "Well, you're a hooker now." Like that's almost like a meta comment or something.
I fucking love it.
Tom Hanniger, trembling, he's here. Harry Warden is here. And Sarah says, Tom, Harry's not here. Axel's like, no, wait, Harry is here, isn't he? And he looks at Tom. Are you there, Harry? You living inside Tom, huh? Are you in there? And then Tom, breaking character, giving the Batman, oh, I'm here. I'm right here. And then Axel's like, I fucking knew it.
Dean Winchester.
And then, of course, Megan, wait, I'm kind of a pussy sometimes. And Sarah Palmer anxiously, welcome to the club, which is a weird scene because Sarah knows that she's been fucking. And it's like, I don't know how she didn't rip her fucking eyes out. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't.
It's a small enough town. You can fucking make her the town harlot. When your husband starts questioning you on why you're even entertaining the idea of talking to your ex that disappeared 10 fucking years ago, you could be like, that's a lot of questions for somebody who's fucking my store clerk, Yeah.
And I mean, and it's so obvious too that even Ben, like it's hinted that Ben knows about it because there's that scene in the diner where, after Axel has said whatever he said to the ladies, like, fucking get out of here, you vultures, you creep back into this town every year trying to get something out of us. There's that scene where she clearly looks at him. She's flirting.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could see it. I mean, hell, I'm semi-autistic when it comes to stuff like that, and I can tell. And she's like looking at Axel, and she's like, I'm going to be late, Sarah. I've got some things to do. And she kind of rolls her eye, looks over at Axel, and then and then Ben like glances up at her, glances over at Axel. You can tell that even Ben knows that this is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how she didn't it's just the two of them. Somebody's attacking them. I don't know why she didn't just throw the bitch to him. It would have been more realistic to me if she would have at that point.
She could have been happy with her good-looking serial killer new man who's fucking rich.
Yeah,
he likes
rich.
to kill, but nothing that a little vagina can't heal. A lot of serial killers were lacking vagina, and she could have fixed that for him.
I think she probably could have.
Yeah, he definitely was obsessed with her.
Here's 3 things I'm gonna throw out going into the movie review. This movie has supernatural written all over it, and I'm gonna tell you what I thought about this. The credit sequence, like when it says My Bloody Valentine, the music and the way that it dissolves into the title is exactly what Supernatural does. It's got that, it's got that swelling of music, like a short little burst of it. And then all of a sudden it shows like the title of the show, like, Supernatural or whatever. Same exact setup. It looked just like it.
So funny.
There's obviously Jensen, this is in the trivia, is wearing the outfit he wears as Dean. Like, I think he literally left the set of Supernatural to go film this and like had the same costume on,
the boots and everything. It was Dean Winchester garb all the way.
All the way, yeah, 100%. And the scene at the end of it where she shoots at Harry and it follows the trajectory of the bullet looked just like in the show shot the pistol or whatever that could harm demons. It looked just like that shot in the show.
Oh my God, they just took a cut and a paste,
That's why in my head canon, this is an alt universe, because that's established. It's canon now in Supernatural. If we go by the Dab years, that there are multiverses in Supernatural.
Yes.
This is an alt universe version of Supernatural, like straight up, like in my mind.
100%.
And it's what if, Jensen / Tom / Dean, instead of being able to, fight the monsters, see that, all that carnage on a regular basis and be able to work through it, was actually affected mentally by it severely and, actually turned into the monster. That is my headcanon for what this movie is. It's what if Dean Winchester, the fighting the monsters actually turned him into one because he just saw too much,
You can't not make that make sense.
I mean, there's nothing about. I mean, even the way he acts, it's Dean. He's acting it. I mean, I don't want to take nothing away from Jensen because the performance is great in my opinion. I don't know what you think about him. He's one of the standouts in the movie, but like at least acting wise. Because even Tom Atkins looks like he's just phoning it in. He's old. This is old Tom Atkins. He's just here for a bit part. He's just kind of doing his thing.
Yeah.
But Jensen's legit got layers to his acting. But it's like I'm watching them. I'm seeing Dean Winchester. That is what I'm seeing on screen.
I feel bad because I feel like the actors were put in situations and they were directed in a way. Dean Winchester didn't really need any directing. But like Kerr Smith, for instance, he was an established actor. But the one thing that stood out to me right at the beginning is when they're talking about the Valentine's Day massacres or whatever, and he's faced away, and she's like, and with me I have, Sheriff, blah, 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 or whatever he was. He was the deputy.
Sheriff Palmer, yeah.
And he wasn't even looking, and then he does this fucking, R&B singer spin towards the camera, and it's like, well, and he just starts overacting what he's saying. And it's like, why wasn't he standing there just looking menacingly at the camera like, I don't even have time to be here? That dramatic spin was so...
manufactured.
Yes. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, he didn't need that. The rest of his acting was pretty fucking decent.
Decent, but it was one note. And I'm not meaning that in a bad way. I think that's the director's fault because like he never really gave Axel like any layers to his character.
No.
Like it's like I want my side piece, I want my woman, and and I want it all. Like and I'm pissed if anybody steps in and even threatens that. And that's the only character he had. There's one scene in the movie, where you see some good acting that from another. I mean, he did a good job of what he was doing. Don't get me wrong, but the one other time where you see a different facet to Axel's character is the scene where he is on the phone with Sarah.
Yeah.
He is in the car with Tom, and he's got tears rolling down his face because he's actually concerned for her. And Kira's selling it. Like, even though he's a piece of shit, he's selling the fact he is legit concerned for his wife. And that's the only time in the movie that I see anything other than just this one note pissed off, I want the world character that he's playing,
I'll tell you one more instance he gives that, and I would be surprised if he disagreed with me, but hey, we're two different people. When he tells her to shoot both of them.
Yes, you're right. I forgot. That one scene, he's like, fuck it. He's like, kill us both.
Yeah,
he's like, I want to protect you, and that's the only way that you're going to believe, get the right guy,
yes.
Shoot us both. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the one other time.
So I was just like, oh, wow. It completely changed my perspective because I was like, he wants her to live so much and take care of their kid that he's willing to sacrifice himself so that she gets the right person. Fortunately, Dean Winchester gives himself away, lets her know the demons he has all inside of him.
Which, going into that reveal, I mean, not cut you off on that, but just because it came to me, the reveal in Valentine was 100% better than the reveal in this movie, I feel like. I mean, it was more effective. Like seeing the drop, from, David Boreanaz's nose, like bleeding on, was 100% more like, oh shit, like he was the killer versus this one where it's like, she's like, wait a minute, you shouldn't have known about Megan being dead. I mean, like it's good. It's, but I feel like if you compare the two of them, because we watched them recently, I feel like that one, it's so subtle that it's more effective in Valentine than this one. But that's the problem with this movie. It's a little, everything's a little amped up in this movie for better or worse.
Yeah, less was definitely more. I am gonna say this: that exact scene was one thing I did love about Dean Winchester's acting was because she dropped that. Wait a second, how did you know about Megan's death? And he said, you told me. And she's like, no, I didn't. But not once did his face change like he had been caught. I think in this particular case, the character, not so much Jensen or Dean Winchester, but I think that the character honestly believed that she had told him in his mind or had led himself to believe that's what had happened. Yeah, and that 100%. I think that was portrayed so well.
Yeah, and he sold it very well. Like that his character didn't know that his persona had split, like he was multiple personalities. He didn't realize the other one existed. And that's one thing I'll give him too. That portrayals of him freaking out with his PTSD, and you start having that sound design on that, where it's almost like the heart beating in his ears. I love that.
I do.
I felt like that was a good shorthand to show that he was like losing it, you know?
Yeah. About Dean again, and us talking about how they used a different actor to portray the killer. The killer was pretty menacing, and the person who played the actor that played the character in costume was amazing. 100%. They deserve so much credit for how well they portrayed this killer. But when Jensen Ackles is walking with the pickaxe and smashing the lights, and he also has the menacing walk, in my opinion, it's almost identical. Which tells me that Jensen could have definitely worn that costume and played that character.
And his facial features are creepier because you can see I mean, he, like I said, he plays a good bad guy. Like he can act. Like, I mean, that look in his face, it's like, I'm a stone cold killer and you're fucking dead. Like I'm, you know, like, I mean, as much as we talked about how great the miner's mask is about that soulless look in the eyes or whatever, seeing his real eyes and seeing the craziness in it, that actually sold more of the creepiness factor of the character than anything.
Yeah. I just don't know why they wasted time or money on a separate actor, unless Dean wasn't available, maybe Supernatural. So I guess that would make sense. That would be the only logical explanation to me. Their menacing walk, and how they smashed the lights, and how they held the pickaxe, and how they swung the pickaxe. Look, you can say that there's only one way to swing a pickaxe, 2 or 3 ways. Either way, they both were on point. It's like they fucking took axe pick swinging classes or walking menacingly classes together, because I really think that they were identical.
And 100%. And the other thing is too, is that whenever he was walking like toward her in that scene, like I got the impression that, I mean, he could have at any point in that movie, carried like that hulking presence. He could have carried that off. I mean, which we know in Supernatural, I mean, the times he's played evil in that, he kind of does the same thing. He can play that. They just didn't utilize him. And I don't know if that's because the scenes they had were too demanding, or they were afraid that he would get hurt, and he still had to, and he was on loan from Supernatural, so they couldn't really subject him to that sort of thing. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of.
Or Kevin Bacon, when he decided he was going to fucking do the scene for hours, just fucking picking up the dirt, and maybe they're like,
God, and then fucking like legit hurt himself because he kept like digging in the real dirt. Like, I mean, geez. Or like Vince Vaughn talking about Freaky, where he legit wanted to jump in front of the fucking cars it was being driven through,
So maybe it could have been that. I don't know. Either way, I was pretty upset about that. I was like, but there's so many other things that you can do. I know you want the weight of the pickaxe to look a little bit more real. There's so many weird
you
things.
Want a good heft on the swing. You want somebody who looks like they've got some power behind it, because there's a few times this movie that it's almost like the killer has a supernatural strength to him. And I'm not saying that supernatural is a pun. I'm saying like a legit, like, like they almost Jason Voorhees come back from the dead, supernatural strength, because like, I mean, like I talked about with Celine, I buy that a little bit better in the physics because she's a lighter woman. She probably she weighed about 70 pounds. I don't even know if she weighed that much.
Yeah.
But there's a few of the other scenes in the movie where he goes to kill somebody, and like the way that he attacks them, like it's just so brutal and like so much force behind it that it would have took like the strength of 2 men to get that effect, like in reality.
I have to agree with you. Yeah, because even like, I know you can be a strong-ass person, but a pickaxe is fucking heavy. And he's been in a mental institution for 7 years, 8 years, whatever. And he's just throwing this thing around. So maybe there was a weight difference of some sort, I don't know. The way that both of them, the killer and Dean Winchester, the way that they threw it around was a little supernatural.
Yeah, it was like it was a little too light in their hands, like they could, do. I mean, because there wasn't the wind up to the swing or whatever that you would expect from it, for one. But then the effects were like also overblown. But that's what I said. It kind of amps things up, more than it should in a lot of cases, which is not a bad thing. I mean, like I said, I enjoy this movie. I mean, it's. And I enjoy it for a different reason. I like the original. Original's got the grounded, like realistic. You would see that happening feel. This is more like, okay, I'm watching a popcorn flick. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
But But that's one of my problems going into the visuals. The blood like really stands out now. Like you can tell a lot of that was CGI blood.
Oh
like
yeah.
it splatters too freely. It doesn't travel the way you would imagine blood would. It's not like thin. It's too thick at times, and not thick enough at other times. It's weird. It's like it's you can tell it's like a visual effect that's layered on, especially. Even though I like it, and it's probably and getting ahead of the Death Holler Awards a little bit, my favorite kill is when Tom Atkins gets the pickaxe to the jaw and it gets like completely ripped off, which is another kill that I think is a little too strong for a character that's not supernaturally strong. But because the force is so strong that Tom Atkins actually flies forward like 10 feet, I feel like in the movie, and falls off the banister, like or the porch rail. And like, if nothing else, he would have just like went forward, like he would have went back a little bit. Like it's too much of a kick. But anyways, whenever the quick little scene where he like rips Tom Atkins' jaws out, and like what follows, it just looks so fake now. Like it just looks. I mean, you can tell it wasn't done with real prosthetics or anything.
Yeah. I don't know. It was also a really dark film, so I think that's where the darkness kind of works for.
Well, it does work to an extent. In that sense, it kind of covers it up, but at the same time, it's so quick and so liquidy.
Yeah,
it's got that. I mean, it's better obviously than what we talked about, the House on Haunted Hill, where you have that cheap 1990s PlayStation like look to the CGI.
Yeah,
it's better than that by a mile, but like it's still not. It's the uncanny valley. It's like I can tell it's not blood.
No consistency.
Yeah. What do you think about the story in this one and how it was related throughout the thing?
It wasn't as good as the first one or the original, because here we have, I mean, I guess with the original killer, it was kind of cool. It was like, well, this guy really fucking went out of his walker, when he woke up from the hospital and just started killing people like crazy, blah, blah, blah. That part of it was cool. Having Dean Winchester be like this jilted child, daddy owned the mine, and he was being blamed because he forgot to close the valves. I don't see how that would turn him into a killer. Watching your dad get murdered can definitely have that effect. We've seen Silent Night,
I mean, you have childhood trauma, and it's established in the movie that he is like, clearly, like if he's not like in his early 20s at that point, he's like a late teen, like, to be working in the mines, he'd have to be at least 18, I would think. I mean, I think the regulations on that, unless his dad stretched like the rules to allow him to be in there. But anyways,
well, he said he'd been running around those mines since he was a child.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, well, but I mean, even he looks like he's 20 something years old at the beginning of the movie. And then like, I mean, that's probably another problem is like, it's supposed to be 10 years later and he doesn't really look like he's aged 10 years.
No one aged except for Kerr Smith a little bit with the facial hair.
Kerr Smith, but I would say Jamie King did, because for some reason, I don't know how they did this. I will give them credit for this. She had lines around her face, and I'm just like, that looked like, I mean, like, damn, you've had a rough life in the past 10 years, even though she was just, I mean, I guess because all the time she was crying over the fact that, Axel was cheating on her or whatever, but maybe, still. Yeah.
Like, they matured her a lot with her clothing, too. Her clothing was very virginal, teen. What they had her dressed, it was so dorky, but whatever, it worked. And then they had her dressed like a mom that just fucking had given up.
That's true. I will give them credit on Irene too. I forgot about this. Irene, now her body looks still too good for about 10 years on, but time her face, I don't know if it's because they pancaked the makeup on, but she looked like a truck stop hooker, like 10 years on. And like you watch that beginning scene where they're kids, and which is how she would have looked at the time of filming the movie, and like she's significantly prettier in that first part of the movie. So they did a good job aging her up. They just didn't age up Jensen, which is weird.
Oh, like, her face definitely looked as tired as them titties did. So I have never seen such small flaps flap so bad.
That's true. I mean, that's the one bad thing. Even though we got full frontal in this movie, we had gorgeous knockers in Valentine. Never got to see them. This movie, we got little bitty ones, and it's just like, okay, I guess that's what we got. You know?
And there's no, like, I understand I can't stand the little bitty ones, but when she was running, they were flapping at 2 different angles. Why? It was over dramatic, and I'm like, that is just maybe, but I think there's a lot of guys that get very turned on by that, so whatever. And she was bouncing up and down a lot on top of fucking what's his name. There was
the trucker or whatever it is, or
a lot of titty flapping going on, and they were the tiniest little flaps. It was embarrassing.
It kind of stood out. I'm looking at it and I'm like, and she agreed that she was the one that came up with the idea to run around naked like that in the movie.
Naked.
So
the rest of her body was banging,
Yeah, that was her decision to do that. So kudos to her.
Yeah.
I mean, and having the bravery to do that. It's just the fact that I just wish, I wish we would have got a scene like that in Valentine with some of those actors.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, visually, otherwise, though, I feel like, it was fine, but we've already talked about the lighting. The lighting is off in this movie all the way around. Like, the lighting is too flat and too natural, or in a bad way looking which means that it looks cheap and like the outdoorsy scenes, but then it looks too artificial in the mind. Like they didn't get it right either way.
You know what I could think about? It just came to me right now. The universe where Dean Winchester met Benny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It looked like purgatory.
It looked like that. So I don't know. I know it's supposed to be a drab town. I think they were trying to use the lighting to put off emotion. And I'm going to say that it did partially work. It was very depressing. And that town was like that. It was... There's nothing there. These are people that are like, I want to leave this small town, and then there's the small town people that are like, there ain't nothing better for me out there. This is where I live. This is where I love.
The only benefit I'll give them, and this is a small one because there wasn't a lot of these, is the interior scenes. In some cases, tend to be a lot better. Like the scenes with Ben, especially right before the pickaxe, where he got slammed on top of it. There was a good contrast. He had that deep red like smoking jacket on or whatever he had, and it really stood out. And then the scenes in the hospital tended to be well lit for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but then they would have the scenes like, for instance, the post-fuck scene or whatever between Axel and Megan. Like, that had that same gray look to it. And I'm like, I know it's supposed to be inside his dad's, like, old cabin or whatever. But, like, if you're wanting that to, like, her to look appealing as, like, his side chick, like, it didn't sell it because it was just all grayish and washed out. Like, it didn't,
Yeah, there was a lot of that in this movie. Lighting was the weakest point of this movie. Some of the acting, I don't even want to say some of the acting, because I feel like all of the actors actually did a really good job. I think sometimes the direction wasn't where it should have been. I can't fault the acting, because when you have points of the acting where you're actually doing really good, but then you have other points where it's like, that was not hitting what it needed to hit, that's the director's fault.
It is the director's fault, and I'm not blaming that, because Jamie King, like, at some points in the movie, like the parts where she's interacting with Tom, and it's more of like, do I believe him or do I believe Axel? Because they're both telling her that the other one's the killer. She does a really great job in those scenes. Like, you can tell she's torn. Like, she doesn't want to believe either one of them is the killer. But then there's that scene, like I said, on the bridge between her and Jensen. And like, she's got that. It's just horrible because she's overplaying, like, how tore up she is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's not selling it with her, like, the way that she's speaking to him. So it's like, facially, like, she's overplaying it.
Yeah.
Her voice is not doing it enough, and he's playing like just perfect, the stoic, like, I'm damaged goods, like, type thing, and it's like it doesn't play well off each other. The deputy sheriff or whatever that works with character, like, he doesn't really have much to go on. Like, he's a one note character all the way through the movie.
Best side character though.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to think. You could throw in Celine there if you wanted to throw in just a weird side character. Because how many movies have little people in them like that? But
the reason why I mention him as a best side character is because he was legit. he was not distracted by anything, but he knew that his coworker was distracted. So he's over here fucking doing his job, you know.
He was the one that called up, Axel and said, "Listen, I've fucking been researching this while you've been you're crying over your side chick." And, Tom's got some fucked up shit in his past. You know?
And not only that, but the shame that he emotes, on his fucking coworker or his friend, if you will, because they're friends. It's a small town,
Yeah.
He lets him know, like, dude, you are not doing right,
That's true. I mean, he's not terrible. I mean, it's not like you watch it and you're getting, I never got like a fake feeling from him. It's just, there's not a lot to his character, but there's not a lot that's given to his character to really operate off of. Same thing with Tom Atkins. I mean, Tom Atkins is forceful and like that classic, like, get the fuck out of here, police chief, type thing. But that's all he is. Like, there's nothing else to him. Even the scene where they reveal that him and his deputy went on like vigilante, justice and took out, the original Harry Warden. There's nothing else to that. Like, you see no real remorse that he did what. There's like a little bit of the face, like, but that's it. There's nothing else to it. Like, I mean,
wild.
It's really just Jensen's movie as far as like, I mean, who was given the best acting stuff in the movie.
He was given what he was given, and he just knew how to act it because he has experience.
I think that's what it was more. I mean, because if a director is a good director, then there's maybe a few bad points, but everybody else is doing pretty good. And when there's only one actor who's really doing their job right, that means that they knew what the fuck they were doing and they ignored the director or their lack of ability. And I think that's what happened here.
This is what comes to mind when I think about Jensen Ackles being put into this movie. I think about the time that I forget what her name is. She's from the Pussycat Dolls, okay? So she's a professional performer of singing and dancing in a kind of a burlesque type setting, but different types of burlesque dancing. It's not just taking off just clothes or whatever. You're just doing provocative dancing, but it's more artistic than that. And then she went on to they performed their own, or they made their own musical group, and then they had to do hip hop and other types of dancing on music videos. And then they put her on Dancing with the Stars. So they took a already trained professional dancer and put her on a show where you have to become a professional dancer with other professional dancers. You're not trained, and she won. And it's like, okay, but you already came in knowing you understood the assignment.
Yeah, you're talking about, I just looked it up, Nicole Scherzinger, who's the lead vocal lady who did the Don't Ya song or whatever. She's the one everybody remembers from that song.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny. It's like, I'm not downing Dean for that or Jensen about that. It's just that it's not surprising that he did so well. They put him in another episode of Supernatural.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. We talked about the final girl from Friday the 13th Part 5 when she got on the film set and she asked the director for her character's motivation. He told her basically to fuck off because all he was worried about was really filming the sex scene between Debbie Big Tits Voorhees or whatever, and then the other guy, and like she basically had to do her own she had to direct herself is what it amounted to. That's what I feel like happened in this movie more than anything.
I wonder if they thought that Big Brother Jensen here is gonna put off his acting vibes, and they're just gonna be able to pick up on that and be able to roll with it. I guarantee
you they thought that, and this was probably at a point in time where he was still not in his producer director mindset, where he gave a shit to get anybody else up that speed. So like he didn't actively go out and let's rework the scene or whatever. I feel like he was still just an actor at that point in time.
Yeah, unless he wanted to react one of his own scenes. But at that point, what kind of a actor / asshole would you have to be if you're like, hey, Axel, I don't think you really gave it your all. Let's try this again. They were all too young to start doing shit like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially with Kara. Like, if he would have told that to Kara, that would have really created drama because they basically grew up together. Doing different shows, and how dare you tell me how to do my part? Which we've already discussed. Kara didn't really have. I mean, he wasn't a bad actor. It's just the character itself wasn't built with a lot of stuff to it, you know.
Just a cheating asshole. He had nothing to do but become a cop because it's a small ass town.
Yeah, it was that or working the mines, and he wasn't about to do that shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was music. We already discussed this. Music in this is not that great. Like, I mean, it's a little too poppy, and it's weird pop. Like, it doesn't fit the area they're in. Like, I feel like the first movie having that little bit of, you know, country western stuff fits what you would think a mining community would be more likely to listen to. Which I know there's supposed to be younger kids in this, and that's part of the disconnect. Like, we've talked about this. Like, this movie all follows like the you know, the trials and tribulations of these, like, you know, people who, you know, were teenagers basically whenever Harry Warden attacked, and now that they're grown up, it follows them, as opposed to like the rest of the community. Like, we get no sense from the rest of the town like anything about how they feel about this stuff. It's literally these people, and it's the, you know, the old guard that are, you know, basically dying off. That's the only thing you get. You don't get anybody else.
It's just condensed to that small group.
Yeah, it's like people say about Star Wars. It's like, okay, we've got the Skywalkers and their whiny bitch ass drama. What about the rest of the universe that's actually affected by this shit? What about them? It's like, who cares? More Skywalkers. It's like, oh fuck, you know.
Did we introduce to you this new Skywalker? We adopted her. She adopted us.
Her name's Rey. She's cool. She does everything. She can even heal herself. Palpatine powers. Oh God. Anything else you want to say about the movie before we get into trivia?
I thought the effects. I was not fortunate enough to watch this film in 3D in a theater. I can't say that I've enjoyed a ton of movies a lot in 3D in the theaters, which is sad. I don't know what my issue is. But going on that, the effects were terrible. It did not, like, it didn't work well at all watching it on a regular screen. And I didn't have that weird fuzzy look to it where, you know, you can kind of tell it's 3D. You could just tell the parts that were meant to be 3D. And there was one pickaxe throwing scene
right toward the camera.
Yeah, there was one pickaxe scene that actually worked really well that was definitely supposed to be 3D, but obviously didn't come out that way. And I was like, okay, well, that was cool. You know, but like, for instance, it looked so cheap. It was so CG, the eye, you know, you could tell it might as well have been a cartoon coming through their eye, like, you know, Roger Rabbit, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. Or that scene in when we covered Evil Dead, the very first movie. I love that scene because of how cheesy it is now, because you can actually see it, because high def television ruins old movies. I'm just going to throw this out there. But there is a scene where one of the zombies gets its head smashed in, and the eyeball pops out, and it flies into like Bruce Campbell's mouth or somebody's mouth. Might have been his, like, you know, friend in that movie. But anyways, you can see the little fish string that's holding the, you know, up as it's flying through there, and it's so cheesy. But like, it's cheesy in a like charming way, whereas this is just cheesy in a like, come on guys, like, I mean, you know,
the effort was made. It's better than what I can do on the computer, so, you know, I will say at least that to give you some credit, but it's not saying a lot.
Let's see here. So a flyer on the wall indicates that Valentine's Day is Saturday, and that February the 14th. That would mean that the previous day is Friday the 13th. So they're going back to that whole thing in this movie. In a 2012 interview, Betsy Rue was asked if she regretted filming the extended scene where she's running around the motel parking lot totally naked. She says she regrets nothing. It was amazing, and I think that it would have and I think I would have had some regrets, but the reviews were so fun from it. The Hollywood Reporter and Variety wrote up some amazing reviews, and that made me feel really good. And that was the whole point of what I wanted to do. Like, okay, I'm going to be naked, so I better be good instead of just being naked. I wanted the audience to forget that the fact that I was naked running around the parking lot getting killed, and actually have them be scared for me. And from the reviews and the feedback that I got, I think I got there. That was my main concern. I didn't want to be this naked chick running around just for, because we all know that's what happens in horror movies. I was the naked girl, but for my sake, I hope that I brought a little more to it than just being the screaming naked girl. I didn't get that from it. I didn't even get the scared effect, which I mean, I don't get frightened by this stuff anyways. We've already talked about this. You know, the few horror movies that make me jump or actually get to me, they're 100% in my mind because they succeed on a level that they probably shouldn't. But what I got more out of the scene was that she was just, I mean, like she was just determined, and she was just to not be the whore and not be I mean, she sold that portion of it, that she didn't want to be considered this throwaway piece of shit, that she, that the clothes be damned, that she was going to chase down the trucker and make sure that she got that, film footage back.
She was walking around like she was not naked. It wasn't until she became like an actual victim, meaning like where she was being chased, that she became vulnerable in her nakedness.
Yes,
because
exactly.
prior to that, she was like,
really notice it.
Yeah, she was walking around like she had pants, a sweater on, some protective gear. She was gonna whoop that dude's ass, which was hilarious. So the confidence was definitely there, and it's a good thing that she did do it, because like people are gonna remember, other than those floppy ass tired titties, people are gonna remember like she had a really nice body. Like it's something you can kind of look back on and be like, wow, like I did that, and I'm glad I did, because it's scary, and having experience putting pictures of myself out that I'm like, fuck, this is a little risque, but I'm like, fuck, I did that, and it's like, okay, because I'm not going to always look like that. So I'm hoping she can look back on it like that and be like, dang, like I had it going on at that point. Except for them tired
it's one of those
titties.
things where she, as opposed to some of these actresses who go back and regret that sort of thing later, it's like, it's something she can look. I mean, she filmed this at the, like one of the peak pretty much of like, how good she was going to look sexually, that sort of thing. So there's nothing to really be embarrassed about when it comes to that. I mean, especially the way she portrayed it, she wasn't like, for the most of that scene that she was naked, she wasn't, like you said, a victim or even vulnerable. Most of it was her actually standing up for herself and being a badass up until the point wherever the killer came out. And at that point, I mean, who else wouldn't have run if they saw somebody get like a pickaxe through the forehead? So.
Yeah. Also, I do want to say, though, what was kind of over the top, the sex scene could have been just as erotic without her seeming like she was faking it like a porn star.
Yes.
She could have been bouncing on that as hard as she wanted to be, but the excessiveness that was thrown into it, that was the only part that I was like, okay, that's a bit much. And the rolling around, nobody has sex like that. Sorry.
I feel like that was the screenwriter, and it's in the trivia, but I feel like that was the screenwriter being a perv more than it was her necessarily. I mean, in that scene, but
it was funny either way. But it was better when she was like standing up for herself naked. I was like, okay, good body, and she fucking doesn't care she's naked. You get it, girl.
According to her, after she was cast, they wanted to make sure that I was going to be comfortable with everything before I did it. So I knew that what it entailed before I went in, and actually the end product was a lot more than they expected. When you're watching the movie, if you look at the part where I take the gun out of the purse, before I came out in the parking lot, I grab a sheet off the bed. We did this many times with the sheet, and it just wasn't working. So I said, forget the sheet. I'm leaving the sheet behind. So that's how I ended up getting so much more nude. I said, forget it. If you want this, I'm going balls to the walls, and here it is. She added, because as an actor, I just felt a lot better forgetting the sheet. I felt like it was more real. I feel like I was in my reality. I was like, I would not be worrying about the stupid sheet right now. I just want the tape back. She's 100% right. That character her life would be ruined if that tape got out there. So her whole focus, clothes be damned, was to get that tape back in that scene.
And just so for the folks out there who haven't seen, she goes full frontal, and thankfully her vagina is God's perfect little suggestion. Just 2 vanilla wafers gently placed together, no roast beef hanging out, not a hair to be seen, which is fine, which is so weird because normally I'm not a fan of that. I prefer a little landing strip so that, you got some indication that this is a woman you're dealing with. But then again, she was so good in her determination of not giving a fuck of what was going on except for, here's your $20. I want that tape,
Yeah, exactly.
That you don't even notice that, but the fucking no porn shit going on other than the fake bouncing and everything. Like I said, God's perfect little suggestion.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was sitting there. I was like, she's really nude, like, and but like, there's nothing down there that stands out. Like, the way, I don't know how they filmed this or how it looked, but it was almost like it almost has the Barbie effect, even though it's not. They didn't do anything to do that. That there, there's, like you said, it's a suggestion. It's not like you see everything.
Well, let's be quite frank too. She didn't actually have sex. So there was no blood flow or swelling or anything else.
That's true. There wasn't anything to really make it stand out.
No discoloration or anything. I'm sure they touched it up with makeup and everything. Even Pam Anderson talks about for certain things being touched up in areas you got to be touched up in. Which, FYI, this reminds me of the time, I don't know if you ever watched Girls Next Door. Speaking of Pam Anderson and naked women walking around.
I watched like I think the first season and maybe part of the second.
I forget how old Hugh Hefner.
The one that was trying to be you're talking about the Playboy stuff, right? Yeah. The one that tried to be like a hip hop star, the one that was like super stupid. Like I know they were all blonde.
Yeah.
Like there was the one blonde, and they were dumb in their own ways, don't get me wrong, but there was the one chick that liked horror movies and, I kind of sympathized with her.
I love her. That's
bit.
Bridget.
Yeah, and then there was the one that was like his main piece. That was the one that's went on now and like Holly or whatever. Yes. But then there was the one that had like the grills in her teeth. Yeah, I couldn't stand her. I dropped the show. I was like, I can't fucking deal with her. She's so fucking stupid.
They have a podcast that I've been listening to. Totally, I'm not going to get into that, but just FYI, I enjoy that podcast. It's hilarious. Kendra's not in it, but. Pam Anderson, speaking of makeup touch-up on vaginas and God's perfect little suggestion, same body type except for the knockers. Obviously, everyone knows Pam's knockers. She showed up ass naked to one of Hugh Hefner's birthday parties to present him a birthday cake. Walked around the whole birthday party butt ass naked the whole time. And also, God's perfect suggestion, she had a very similar body type as this woman, like I said, minus the titties.
Yeah.
So it's fucking hilarious. Yeah, they'd probably touch that shit up with a little bit of makeup.
Yeah, I'm sure that they probably did in this too. Like, any imperfections they probably took care of and all that stuff too. So,
anyways,
the My Bloody Valentine screenwriter Todd Farmer plays the truck driver who has sex with Betsy Ruth's character in the motel and then gets chased by her through the parking lot. Many fans have joked that he must have written the scene just so he could spend all that time with her naked. Mm-hmm. The funny thing about that is that Farmer's wife, Melanie, is thanked in the credits for allowing him to film that scene.
Oh, my God. He had a tired ass. I don't know who was more tired in this, her fucking titties or his ass. That was so unnecessary. We did not need to see that. I can't tell you which one I didn't want to see anymore. Maybe I wanted to see her tired titties more than his tired ass,
Yeah, I don't know how he didn't end up dead somewhere. If I would have been his wife, I'd been like, okay, you clearly fucking you did that so you could be with her. Like, we're going to fucking have problems, I
know we saw his butt naked ass, but you know how like actors usually wear those like nude toppers. I've seen porn stars talk about it where they're like, these are what you wear when you're doing a sex scene, or it's costume designers, and they're like the protective things. I wonder if he had that, or was she bouncing on a was she bouncing on a stomach? I don't know.
Was he wearing a cup or something while she was just bouncing? There had been something, because she was fully nude, and there would have been contact otherwise. There had been something separating them down there one way or the other.
Gross. Her vagina's touching him. I would not be okay with it. It would be a hard no for me.
I feel worse for her in that situation, to be honest. But
that's true.
Because like I said, he came out to the benefit. He had this woman basically rubbing her. And how many takes would how all this stuff in movies? It's like, all right, and then they get done and it seems perfect. And he's like, guys, we got to do this again. Like, I don't feel like there was enough in that scene.
He's got like 2 hours of footage of just her bouncing around on him.
And he probably took that footage home with him, just like the character did was going to in the movie.
Oh my God.
The film was made into a haunted house at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, as I said. I think the original should be made into one because I think it has some better set pieces. But Jensen Ackles and his Supernatural co-star Jared Padalecki both starred in remakes of 1980s horror films in 2009. Ackles in this film, and then Padalecki in the remake of Friday the 13th, which we will be covering in October.
Yes, which I did hear about the Padalecki one. I did not know who Jared was at that time, but you heard more about that one than you heard about Jensen in this one. I didn't really even, this one totally went over me.
Well, yeah, but it was Return of Friday the 13th. People were dying, and they're dying for it right now. Like, they want Jason to come back, and that's a whole issue that we've not even discussed. We'll bring up a little bit more because I've got to research willing him alive. The details. They have the rights on that are so fucking weird. Like, Cunningham owns the rights to the camp stuff, Camp Crystal Lake and Camp Blood and all that stuff, and then he's making supposedly a prequel series or some kind of series like right after the original. It's going to have Adrienne King coming back as Alice for some reason.
Oh no!
And Vic Miller actually owns Jason, so Jason cannot be in the prequel or the series they're doing.
No,
it's going to be Mama Voorhees coming back.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll research it some more before we actually have that, podcast, but it's fucked up.
I don't like it.
I mean, there was also an episode titled My Bloody Valentine on Supernatural.
Of course there was. When did that one come out? Do we know? If not, I'll look it up.
You can look it up. I didn't research that, but
I want to know if it was after or before. When did this one come out?
2009.
Valentine. Hold on. Supernatural.
And Jensen does wear the same jacket in Supernatural that he wears in this film, and the same shoes, it looks like.
It was after.
Okay.
It aired February 11th, 2010.
Oh, so 1 year removed from when he made it, or when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. Okay. The film was shot in Pennsylvania because it allowed the production crew to take advantage of the state's tax incentives for filmmaking.
A nod to our girl Daphne.
Appalachian coal mine that they were filming in. The same town was featured in the Mothman Prophecy because that bridge was featured in that movie. In the bar scene, Sheriff Burke, who plays Tom Atkins, yells, "Everybody stand down, goddammit."
Yeah.
Atkins would go on to play a similar character in Patrick Lussier's next film, Drive Angry, where he would say the exact line in the exact same way during the later film's roadblock scene. So he had the same character in two different films. Paychecks are good, folks. Whenever you're an aging horror icon, you can just show up in a movie and say the same thing all the time.
Yeah, I mean...
in 2009, Go ahead.
Oh, I said respect to that,
Yeah, I mean, if that's they're getting paid, I mean, more power to them. I mean, I feel like that's all conventions are good for is like some of these actors, and I had nothing against them, but they're just too pricey anymore. Like a lot of these B actors who you barely were in a film, and we love them because we know the movie, but like no, they never really gain prominence. Trying to charge like $60 plus for their autograph, fuck off. Like, yeah. I mean, seriously. In 2009, the Australian Classification Board released its report, which shows the most complained about titles of the year. My Bloody Valentine 2009 was in the top 5 with a dozen complaints. Most of the complaints were about the film's gory violence, although the film carried the highest rating available to a non-pornographic film in Australia. Many people who wrote in wanted the film completely banned.
Wow. That's a little excessive.
Australians, I mean, you were raised from prisoners. Like, you should not be so ready to ban shit. Like, I don't understand this. We are the ones that should have been trying to ban this. I mean, we're the fucking Puritans of it all. I mean, the original My Bloody Valentine was one of a number of holiday-themed horror movies made after the success of Halloween 1978. Tom Atkins appeared in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, while Betsy Rue appeared in Halloween 2 in 2009. So there's a little bit of a connection in a roundabout way between the two of them.
Okay.
Throughout the film, the villain tilts his head right before or after killing a character. This is a nod to Michael Myers.
Yes.
And the original My Bloody Valentine was released in 1981, the same year that the sequel to the original Halloween was released. There was a lot of slasher movies in 1981, like a ton.
Yeah. But okay, I know Jason Voorhees did a head tilt one time, and they said they referenced Michael Myers. I forget which Friday the 13th that was. But like, it was the 4, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was in 4.
Okay, but like, have I not seen Jason do that multiple times?
No, Jason kind of just like especially when we get into like the Kane Hodder ones, he's more just like his, you can see his like chest heaving up and down.
Yeah.
He probably shouldn't breathe since he's undead, but that's a whole other thing. It adds to the effect. It makes him look like he's this hulking monstrosity. But but he's more about like his head's always like bolt straight and like he's just coming straight at you. Whereas like Michael plays a little bit with it. It's like, it's like he's admiring what Jason doesn't fucking care. There's no art to what Jason does. He like the guy said in part 6, the director of that one, he's a force of nature, is what Jason is.
We'll have to discuss this in the next Friday the 13th during October, but just because I need to know.
And that's the season. That's the same month we'll be doing Halloween.
Yes.
So we'll get to compare both of them.
Oh, great. But I got to ask a question. What is the not Michael Myers? What is the Jason Voorhees teleport thing? Is that coming up in the ones we're going to review in October?
It starts to become more of a thing later on because he's literally, once he becomes undead in part 6, it's not so much in that movie, but after that, like he kind of does more teleportation at that point.
Okay.
It's understood that once Jason becomes undead, he gains a lot of powers that he didn't have when he was alive. So
because he can literally teleport in the games.
Yeah, well, that's a joke. In the movies, it's kind of a joke because you don't see him teleport, but he has to because he's too slow and lumbering to catch up with them.
Oh, my God.
Except for the remake. They give a good reason why he catches up with people in the remake, and that's because he's fucking fast.
Oh,
and,
shit.
He is a pot farming like hillbilly that wants to kill everybody who gets around his pot, and he's working out on a daily basis. So.
Oh, shit.
Sherry Moon Zombie was actually offered a role in this film, but as she doesn't appear in films that aren't directed by her husband, since she's not a full-time actress, she immediately turned it down. Sherry Moon Zombie playing Betsy Roos' character in this movie, my God, this movie would be known to every man in existence if that would have been the case. I'm just throwing that out there because she's a good-looking woman.
Better titties. Yeah.
I don't know what you think of that, but I swear if she would have been in Betsy Roos' place, I see 100%, 1,000% improvement in that whole scene.
I have to agree. The face would have been better, even though Sherry Moon is more mature. I think she would have matured better. Great body. I've never actually seen her titties. I think maybe you have. She shows them, right?
I feel like she showed them several times in some of his movies. If nothing else, there's a heavy suggestion in a lot of them.
So I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah. Don't know about the acting, but I don't think Betsy Rue was that great of an actress either, so it wouldn't really matter.
She did the walking around naked great, but I think I hate to say it, but I think that any confident woman could have pulled that off.
Yeah, somebody who was confident in how their body looked. I think they could have easily pulled that off. Media Site Complex chose Betsy Roos' scene as number 13 of the 15 best topless moments in mainstream horror movies in 2020. I guess. There's better boobs out there, but we talked about Debbie Double D Voorhees, but at the same time, she did go full nude or full frontal. So
and there are a lot of guys that really do like those tiny titties. I hear about it all the time. It surprises me. I don't think you have to like ginormous titties, but the super tiny ones is kind of weird to me. It just I'm one of those people that I'm one of those guys that there's a good in between. Like these were a little too small for me personally, and then whenever they get to be like double D's, they get to be on the side, or especially above a double D, they get to be just farcically too big, like they look bad. There's between a C and the double D, there's a range there. It's like, okay, that's perfect. That's what if your guy just looking at them, I concur.
The first two characters killed on screen are named Jason and Michael, in homage to the characters from those films. And the direct reference to the films is how they die, which I still don't understand the Michael one because I don't know how Michael gets stabbed in the face by anybody.
Yeah.
I do understand Jason. Because Jason is missing an eye because he slid down the machete, as we saw in part 4. But whatever. In this film, Sarah's housekeeper Rosa is found burnt inside a dryer, while another scene is Sarah being bombarded by miner gear toppling from the ceiling. Both sequences are recreations from the original film. Both were done better in the original film, however, in my opinion.
I'm here for both of them, to be quite honest. But yeah, I think they were a little bit more, they showed a little bit more. We got to see a little more titty in that in terms of horror.
All right, on to the Death Holler Awards and then wrap this up. Final Girl, what do you think about Sarah in this movie?
I'm going to surprise you with this. I think I actually liked her. Yeah, she had her dumb acting moments. And she did make dumb decisions. I hate to say it, not because of Jensen's looks or anything. I would have made those decisions too. I would have questioned, my husband's acting weird. Like, he was acting weird. Axel was almost like he was on something, and he's suspicious with the cheating on me. Like, how honest is this guy being to me? And here comes my ex that I had an amazing relationship with, and he's back in town, and you know, he was going to sell, but now he's going to do right by it. I could see myself making the same mistakes she made.
She's not, I mean, she's by no means like the worst. I mean, watching this, she's a strong, you know, woman, like, especially later on in the movie, like when she's like trying to get away from Tom because she thinks that, you know, he might be the killer because Axel told her that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and then she sees the stuff in the cabin and the way she responds to it. And then even later, whenever she's still like, she's on the verge, like, one of these guys is the killer between the two men that I love in my life, or, you know, with all their faults, like one of them is the killer. Like, she's still like, she doesn't like cave in like she does. And she even, I'll give her credit for something else that's a little small thing. In any other movie, when Jensen started that, who's that behind you shit, it would have been the instant, like, she looks around, he grabs the gun, you know, whatever. No, she held the gun steady.
Yeah.
And if she looks over to Axel, and Axel's gives her that look like only a husband who's known his wife for a while is like, no, fuck, no.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing behind you. Fucking trust me, there's nothing there, you know?
Yeah.
It worked. Like, it showed that she was a strong, confident, like, final girl when it comes to, like, what she needed to do in that moment. And she did shoot him. Like, she did what, you know, she did, even though she didn't want to, she had the supernatural, you know, pistol moment, the you know, the Colt, as it were. She had that moment and had that scene, but she did follow through with it.
We did have an almost titty moment with her too.
Yeah, we did.
He got that axe. I thought he had gotten her for a second, but he had gotten her shirt with the axe. And a little upset that he didn't rip it open with his axe, you know, because I think she was packing underneath that.
And she's a different kind of final girl in the sense that, I mean, like, especially we talked about these, you know, these traits, like the old 80s versions of final girl, they always had to be virginal, because even though that wasn't the original intent for Adrienne King, you know, Vic Miller even says, you know, like we talked about, that she was only virginal because she didn't have time to have sex with anybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, that established a trope. And because Jamie Lee Curtis also didn't have sex with it, kind of, the two of them inadvertently cemented that trope. But like these new final girls, like you've got, you know, Kate and Valentine, clearly she's been hooking up, you know, doing sexual stuff. She's very sexual with Adam in that movie. And in this movie, she's got kids, like very non-traditional, but it's fine because a mother would be, you know, I mean, she's been through some shit. She'd be, and she's been having to deal with the emotional weight of been, you know, cheated on all these years anyways, how long that's been happening. There's more to her than just like the virginal, you know, like, you know, teenage girl that's in a lot of these movies. Which is nice. It's a good twist.
I was thinking this about her. When it comes to the virginal aspect, I think she was virginal in a way. I don't think her husband was touching her the way that he portrayed he was when he was trying to make a point to Axel about, this is my wife, I sleep with her, I fuck her, and blah blah blah.
He's been hitting that side piece to the point of excluding her, and she even closed off things to him, is the sense that and that's a good bit of acting on her behalf, because it's never really conveyed any other way besides her acting, but she's kind of closed herself off from him just because she can't, like, she knows that he's fucking around.
Exactly.
You know?
So if we wanted to bring up the virginal aspect, she technically kind of was almost a born again virgin. Women can shut that off, for the most part. You know, obviously she was ready to open those gates again when her ex came in town.
And depending on how you view it, she still had to pick her, and so she could have been going to, Happy Town while looking at the picture of Jensen, behind the scenes. Like, I mean, because she had that pretty ready, and ready to go. So we don't know. That could have been a thing.
Yeah.
What about the slasher in this one? How do you feel like as far as like we've already kind of discussed Dean's portrayal for Jensen's, but I mean, which did a very good job, but like, what'd you feel about the minor whenever it was just a guy in the suit?
Amazing, actually, because, like I said, comparing the two, knowing that both of them were not the same character, I think that he did an amazing job portraying and emoting Dean Winchester, Jensen Ackles. He really did.
I think I almost got like I said, they amped this up, and I agree with you 100% on what you said. But I almost got the vibe that this was like how Jason went from being in part 4 when he was like the pinnacle of living Jason to, the one in part 6, when he was undead and had all this is almost like the difference between Harry Warden in the very first, or Axel, I guess it was in the first movie, or the original versus this remake. It's like the difference between the two of them, because you got one that's hulking and got all the stuff that makes you believe it, but you can tell he's a living dude. Whereas in this one, like I said again, and it's not like a pun for supernatural, but like he's amped up. He's got it's almost like he's got supernatural strength going on. And maybe that's because when Jensen because they kind of hint at this a little bit, when Jensen becomes the character, he has trouble breathing when he's coming back out of it. So it's almost like he's got an extreme adrenaline dump every time that he becomes this character. Like he's almost like coursing on roids or something, while he's hulking out as the miner.
Well, I think he's scared. He's genuinely scared because he's seeing this happen from the perspective of a innocent person, which is still half of him. And the rest of it is a killer, and he legitimately he's crazy enough that he thinks that this killer, which reminds me of that movie I told you about. Oh, God, it's that French movie that we need to watch. I forgot the name of it. You said it was a good film, though. Where go ahead.
Are you talking about Hot Tension?
Yes.
Hot Tension, as it were, yeah.
Where she's... I don't want to say it. I don't want to spoil. Anyways.
No. That's the whole twist. And that's why the movie's so good. So don't.
Yeah. So okay. Anyways, going on that, he portrayed that really well. So and it gives you empathy.
The one thing that I'll say about that, because this scene stands out, I mean, because I knew about it when I was watching it, that scene where he's in the cage and he is watching Harry take on that other miner, and and that's one of those things, that the one miner that he basically kicks the pickaxe back up into the guy's forehead, and then stabs him 9 more times. That's very symbolic when you go back and rewatch it and you know what's going on, because Tom is being locked inside part of his own brain away, and he's watching from a distance as his own body is killing somebody.
Exactly. Did you also? Go ahead.
It's just a very creative way, and it's not even something that's blatant. You only pick it up upon repeated views, but I give the writer credit on that. It's a very good visual representation of him being trapped inside of his own mind.
Even more, and this is when I decided that Dean Winchester was the killer, was when he's crouched in the cage and he gets up and the killer is mirroring his movement.
Oh, yes.
And
100%,
I said, this is him. That's him.
Yeah, it was a good visual tell to the audience. It's okay, this guy's the killer. This is what's going on. He's really, he's not, it's not him, but it is. He's not the one actively doing this, but he can't help it.
And it could be somebody just being a copycat killer and trying to make Dean Winchester look guilty, which would be a good explanation away of, well, wait a second, what if it's not him? And it could be this. But at that point I saw that, I was like, this is him, because it looks like him, it moves like him, same height, same width. They did a very good job with the casting.
Yeah, that stunt guy is really good. Like he really did a good job of mimicking. But I feel like good stunt actors do that.
Yeah.
Like they take on they work so closely with the people that they're the stunt people for that they can actually mimic their the way they move, the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. That's one of the things that I love about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, going back to Quentin Tarantino, and of course feet factor into it several times.
Yeah.
And in one instance, very creepy way because it's the daughter of his best friend or whatever. But anyways, Uma Thurman's daughter. But the whole relationship between Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, like, Leonardo's the actor and, Brad Pitt has been his stuntman for so many years. He knows how Leonardo like just moves, how he operates. And like, you can tell they're totally in sync. And I love that because that's how they really are in Hollywood. Like they get to know each other that well that they can mimic each other. And that's exemplified in this movie,
Yeah. Trying to reiterate on that, but maybe we should keep moving on with the Death Holler Awards.
Best kill to me. I originally said the pickaxe through the back of the head, removing the eye, but the one that I just started noticing because I watched this twice because my wife wanted to watch it again, and I didn't watch it with her, this time first or whatever, so I went back and rewatched it. It's got a little bit of cheese to it, but I like that scene where the Brandy gets the shovel through the face, because there was one thing that sells me on it. It's something I've never seen in another movie. Like the face just doesn't stick to the thing behind her. It falls down onto the shovel and it scoots forward a little bit. And I'm like, that's gross, but it seems real.
I liked it. It looked cheesy on my end, but I still loved it. I thought that her choking was really cool too. I think it sounded like she had a shovel in her fucking mouth,
Yeah, but it's a little thing. But anytime they ever do that in another movie, it's just basically the actor keeps their head like stuck against whatever's behind them on the wall. But this one, it plops down just a little and it slides just a little. And it's just enough. It's like, oh God, that
Yeah, it was horrific. My death scene was the one where he pushes Homeboy onto the axe with his foot. I was like, yes. That's terrible.
That's brutal. That was a brutal scene.
And the other guy knew it too. He was like, oh shit.
And it's because like he's even saying it like he's seeing it, right? It's like, oh God, like, and then he gets slammed onto it. The Tom Atkins will be another one for me, but like I said, if you watch it, there's just a little too much jank with the CGI that it kind of and the fact that he just goes so far. Like the kick sends him too far back that it doesn't look. It goes too far into the realm of being absurd to sell it.
Yeah.
Best scream. I don't have one. There was no good screaming in this movie, to my opinion. Like the only one who really screams is Megan a little bit when she's getting like ripped out the window, but like it's kind of a half-hearted scream. It's not that great. I mean, it's not like Sylvia. I mean, that's a scream like Sylvia in the original movie, but this one kind of stunk when it came to that. Best boobs. Got to give it to Irene. Full frontal. Like, God bless her. Like, even if they wasn't the best, she went for it.
Yeah,
so
she did.
Good on you. How annoying is the Doom Prophet? There isn't really one in this movie. I mean, Dean himself is the Doom Prophet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only one telling everybody that they're the killers back in town.
Yeah.
And like, no, and they don't believe him. So, best side character. I went with Sheriff Burke just because it's Tom Atkins. And, it's Tom Atkins. But I can see you saying that the deputy sheriff or whatever, he does his part well.
He does, and he's a small character, so he's effective.
Yeah. Dumbest moment is Irene standing on that bed frame for protection. God, I mean, really? Like,
yes, that was hilarious.
I know it's just so you can see all those scenes of like the pickaxe coming through the little like metal things on the groupings or whatever on the bed frame, but like it's so stupid. It's like, this is thin metal. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, at least try to duck and roll underneath him or something.
She can try throwing it at him, tossing it, at least like some kind of, or maybe like when she throws it at him, maybe give it a little extra kick, throw your body against it so you have some kind of ability to run. I mean, you're going to die, at least die trying, not like, hey, I won't drown in this fucking this thing
In
full
this
of
hot
holes.
tub.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. Anything else? Or is there anything that you want to say about any of these movies before we get out here? Or any more things you want to say about Jensen Ackles before? Because this is your time. This is the only time I know of that we're going to get to talk about him. We can say what we want to about Jared here in a few months, but this is Jensen's time.
No, just that, like I said, I have a hard time. Like, okay, there is something I want to say about Jensen. When I found out he was the slasher, actually, when I was watching this film, I said, I hope he's the killer because he is such not a good person. I feel like it would fit his persona so well. Like it would be almost natural to him to be the bad guy, So that's where my mindset was. Because my husband didn't tell me. He's like, "Do you know who the killer is?" And he was kind of like, he knew who the killer was. And I was like, I think from what I've seen so far, I think that it's Dean Winchester. And he's like, "I don't know who that is." And I was like, "Jensen Ackles." And he goes, "I don't know who that is." And I was like, "You do know who he is. Don't lie." He always pretends he doesn't have anything to do with supernatural. He doesn't like it, but he knows what it is, And I said, I hope it's him because I don't think he's a good person. And I think it just fits, and left it at that. And it was exactly how I thought it was going to be. So, well, not exactly, but it was him. Spoiler alert, everyone.
Did you watch him and the boys? Like, did you watch his season and that?
I watched a little bit of it, and I wasn't as disgusted by him as I thought I was going to be. I think he's such a cocky, pretentious guy. And I thought that that's really how he was going to come off. Unfortunately, the scene I saw, because I was sleepwatching, but I did physically see something, he wasn't at the moment. So he was being better than
He shows like a definite way to play bad guy in that because you're supposed to hate him, but at the same time, the charisma comes through, not the Dean charisma, but like a different type of charisma, like somebody who has a reason to be as pissed off as he is. I mean, like it's set up that he was screwed over by his best friends, and like he plays it. I mean, the guy can act like straight up. Like even if you don't like him as a person, obviously, like you can't take away his acting chops. He's got them, like for sure.
Yeah. And I did love the Blondie music video that they forced him to do that they did not tell him that they were going to do. He was blindsided by that. So I thought that worked out really well. That's giving an actor something random and them fucking, that's what we like to call improv,
You feel about him like I feel about Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
Listen, he's hilarious in The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. He's hilarious in Borat, but I can't stand the guy. Just something about him. Like I get that every bad quality that he portrays in these characters that he does, I feel like he represents in real life. That's probably he's probably the sweetest guy you could ever meet. But that's I get the same impression of him as what you get of Jensen. Like he's a scummy person. There's just something bad about him, and like he and it's not a stretch for him to play these shitbag characters because he is one, like in real life. That's what I get from Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, 100%. I get that from Sasha too. There is a comedian that has a joke about him, and it's basically him telling his story about how he got Sacha Baron Cohen to break character, but he also got fired he actually didn't get hired from the thing he was trying out for. But it kind of brings to light what you're telling me about Sacha Baron. He's not... He's kind of a pretentious fucking asshole too, a little bit, He's always getting him and his wife into legal trouble. Well, not her into legal trouble, but like, he'll get a stressful phone call and she'll look at him and she'll be like, "Who's suing us now?"
Who's he married to? Is it Amy Adams?
No, it looks like Amy Adams though. I forgot what her name. Isla Fisher.
Yeah, that Isla Fisher or something like that.
Isla Fisher. Yeah. She's so cute and little and nice and like adorable, and this is fucking Borat.
Well, that's the whole Pete Davidson effect of it. I mean, that guy looks like walking. He looks like Beetlejuice before Beetlejuice died and became Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
and yet he's bagging the hottest chicks out there. I don't get it. You can say what you want to about guys if they're funny. They can I don't. That's still not an excuse. I've seen funny guys in real life that can't pull the things that Pete Davidson has, and I don't think he's packing either. So I don't know.
Yeah.
he's got to deal with Satan. That's all I can say about Pete Davidson.
He's so weird looking, but I don't know. I think there's some kind of mistake. I think he's broken and girls want to fix him. We love nothing more than to have a project.
I guarantee that's probably it. I'll give you that. There's something about him that seems broken, and he's got the humorous side to him, and the two of them, two things add together that they just eat it up.
I'm going to change him. You know, we all think we're going to be the one to change them.
I mean, it's a running joke right now. It's like, do you know where your significant other is? You know, when it's talking about a female. If not, then you better check to see where Pete Davidson's at, because if he's within 600 miles, she might be fucking him. That's how bad it is at this point. I mean, we even made the joke during the Wednesday thing that because him and Jenna Ortega were hanging out, it's like, God, please, for the love of God, don't let him be. And there's still hints out there that even if it was quick, that they did bang. Like, so
maybe it's possible. Maybe she tried it and didn't like it. You know, good for her. She's like, I'm gonna check out what this BDE. Oh no, this is not BDE at all. Like, this is I don't even know how sad dick energy.
About, like Sacha Baron Cohen pulling like Isla Fisher, but anyways, it's,
we went on a rant.
Yeah. There's people, I mean, like Chevy Chase, like, I mean, this is just kind of put a pin on this whole like tangent about it, but people like, it seems scummy. Chevy Chase was always one that surprised me because he's the complete opposite. Like every time I saw him as a kid, he seemed like Clark Griswold. Like whenever I grew up, like I thought, and then you find out all these stories about him, and he was him and Bill Murray both. Like, there's stories coming out about Bill Murray, and like I hate it because I watch these movies. Like Groundhog Day was on the other day, obviously because of that time of year. And I want to, and you want to love Bill Murray because you hear all these stories about when he meets like his fans out in the, you know, the wild, that he like goes out of his way. But then like there's these stories of him working with other people, and especially what came out between him and Harold Ramis, and like he's the reason that Harold Ramis died without ever getting a chance to play Egon again was because of Bill. And it's like there are pieces of shit on set, and you hate hearing it because it's like, you know, the whole don't meet your heroes thing. Of it, you know?
Well, they say that there's 3 sides to each story, and it's both sides of the people involved and the truth. So I don't know. We'll never be at that level of Hollywood to know.
I've heard so many bad things about Chevy, though. It's so common that you can't really, you can't give him the benefit of the doubt anymore. Like, I mean, I started hearing it when I watched Community because him and Dan Harmon had a big falling out. But then, like, since then, every person, like, and the worst was him and Bill Murray. And it's funny because you take 2 assholes and then they interact, and it's like, you know, it's like gasoline and fire. It's going to blow up, you know.
They have their own Me Too movement where victims are just coming forward to say what happened. Similar stories.
Like, these guys were complete total assholes. And it's funny, and it goes on the whole thing of all the people and in that group of friends that hung around together. You know, it was Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and Martin Short. I would have 100%. If you would have told me it would have been Steve Martin that was the asshole of that group, I would have believed you straight up now, because I always got the feeling Steve Martin was a pure ass behind the scenes, and according to everybody, he's the sweetest guy you ever meet.
It's so funny. Yeah, I wonder. I question myself sometimes if I am wrong about Jensen Ackles, but like I said, it's very rare that I have such a strong opinion about someone that I can only physically see. And I've never seen him in well, actually I have seen him in person. I have absolutely.
Did you get that vibe from him in person? Mm-hmm. Here's a good question.
Yes, absolutely. I was just like, and it made that convention it made it even harder because he's just there for money, and I respect that, but like, he's got this very much like, what's his name? Like his character he plays on The Boys.
Soulja Boy.
I'm so great, and I'm so honorable, and you know, blah blah blah, and then the fake emotion. I don't know. Like I said, there's very few people. I think maybe I can count 3 or 4 people in my life that have given me this vibe, and I was 100% right about it. And I was like, so having a hard time getting myself out of that mindset with him.
I hate dragging this on, but
I love it.
I got to get it out now or whenever we get this out there, podcast wise. So first of all, how do you and Daphne get along, considering I know she's absolute simp for Jensen
she loves
Ackles.
it. You know what? I respect that. I completely understand why she loves him. We have had not arguments. We argue like friends argue. We've all gotten into arguments and debates on the pages, that we're on together. Yes, she absolutely loves him, and she is. I don't think she is here wants to hear at all what I have to say, and she has her own opinions of why she thinks he's not that way, which I'm kind of glad to hear, because I don't, like I said, I don't understand where I came fully to this, only based off of what I get from him. This was from Supernatural. This started with the early days of Supernatural. Maybe in the first few seasons is when I determined I do not like this person. And then
see, I would have never got that, because I feel like he never really gave off that vibe until maybe the later seasons, if you're going to say that. And the only reason I even halfway have, to your line of thinking on that's just how that weird play out between him and Jared on the Winchester stuff, because neither one of their sides passed the smell test on that.
No, 100%.
He seemed like he was giving the corporate answer. Jensen was, meaning he was totally fake about everything he was saying.
Yeah.
And then Jared blew up and then tried to roll it back. And it's like, no, you showed your true colors.
Yes.
At least you were genuine in your response. I'll give you that. Even if it made him look terrible as a person, but he was genuine.
He was genuine. And that's where I would be more respectful of Jensen Ackles. Now, if he's not an asshole, and I'm the asshole right now for assuming, I feel bad. But if he really is what I think he is, he'll never show it, first off. But if he were to just have his bad moment and blow it off, guys, fuck it, I'm a human, or this is how I feel, that's fine. Because I was able to forgive Jared for his indiscretions,
Let's see, what was the other question I had? It was about, we were talking about Daphne and Misha Collins. So you get this vibe about Jensen. So what do you think about, Misha as an actor? Because I totally feel about him like you feel about Jensen, 100%. I love Castiel, but then knowing what I know about Misha and how he absolutely, he does some great things. He's got this charity he runs and he helps out a lot of people. But then you hear and he talks about people who are not of his political bent. He is a complete and total ruthless asshole about it, and I can't stand him because of that.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because at the convention he walked back a lot of that, and he didn't hold back on, I've kind of been wrong on what I've thought of people. He's like, I was around people who don't eat the things that I eat. I was around people that don't think the way that I think, and I had to spend weeks with them. He goes, and I really feel bad for what I've put out there as a person. He goes, a good person will be a little bit more open-minded and understand that people are allowed to believe what they want to believe or feel the way that they want to feel. He goes, and not hate each other. And he did say that. And I think Avi could probably put it into better words than I could, because she was with me out there. But he did give me a better view of him. Still not my favorite person, but I don't have this bad juju. Seeing him in person, I feel like he's a little bit more genuine. I think he was a little hot-headed in how he responded to a lot of situations. But hearing him say in person, because he's got a show that I kind of wanted to watch. I think it was going to be on the Food Network or something, or some kind of food show.
Okay.
And I kind of wanted to watch it, because this is where he was saying he was around different people of different religious and political beliefs, and he had to spend weeks with them. And he said he genuinely got along with everybody.
And that's the thing that always killed me about how he was acting toward people. And I respect that. If he said that, that he's 100% better in my eyes than what he was, because I was going by the way, especially when Trump got elected.
Oh, man,
oh my God,
that was wild.
He had TDS like nobody's business. But the thing that always killed me about it was he ran that big charity, and I can't remember the name of it. It's got this weird name where they do the scavenger hunt or whatever. And one of my best friends from high school was all into it. She actually participated in all that stuff. But the thing that killed me was that I know people who were conservatives who were contributing to his charity to help him out, and then he threw them under the fucking bus, like,
Yeah.
and like, it's like, you're scumbags. You need is if you voted this way, and it's like, dude, you have people that were supporting your own charity and furthering your good works, and that were on the different side of political aisle. You need to respect that.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't have to respect what they believe,
I'm glad he's
but
turned around.
yeah. Now, he didn't walk back a lot of specifics, but you can tell as a general, and it wasn't like a standard issue apology like Jared gave when he made his blow up, you know? It was
not the corporate line, as it were.
Yeah, and it didn't come off, to me, it didn't come off fake and made up. It was like a genuine, like, I feel bad, you know? So he did get a little bit more on a higher level of, okay, he was terrible with what he did, but I think hopefully he's learned from it that, you know, hate's not the way. No hate, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how somebody who spoke, I mean, but that goes along with that's whole argument we're not going to get into, but of that political side right now, they're supposed to be so tolerant, and they want everybody to, you know, have equal thoughts and rights to say things, but then they turn around, and if you don't think exactly the way they do, then you're, I mean, like J.K. Rowling, for instance, like there's this whole big blow up about Hogwarts Battle or whatever it's called, the new game.
Oh God, yeah.
All these people were protesting, and then the other side was buying it in protest of the protesters, and it all and J.K. Rowling is about 99.9% on the side with the left. Like, she toe to toe, like, she follows their political leanings. She's got one argument, that women are women, and that men, you know, even if they identify, and she didn't go she went so far as to say that she respects them saying that they are, but they will never physically or ever, you know, mentally or anything else be a woman or know what it's like. Her one belief in saying that has caused her to be the most hated, you know, person in existence. And it's just crazy, because it's like, you know, I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, you realize she's on your side. Like, I don't know why you hate her that much.
Because I don't know. They can't practice what they preach. But I'm going to bring it around back downtown to Jared and Jensen and why I defended Jared in the whole fiasco. It wasn't because I thought I was right. I thought he was real. He had a human emotion, and everyone was like, you shouldn't do that. You should have known better. You are a public figure. He is, but he's fucking human, you know,
and he's flawed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he will admit he is flawed. There's a reason he ran that campaign about, you know, like being the depression, like, you know, charity and all that, because the guy straight up was going to kill himself at one point in time.
Oh, yeah.
Supernatural. So he's got a dark past, and I could see where his point of view, he was betrayed by his best friend, or quote unquote his best friend.
Or exactly, quote unquote. Now, I didn't think he had to know. I was never on the side of, well, Jensen should have told him. I might have felt that way, but I didn't think it was something that he had to do. I understand why Jensen kept his secrets and everything. It doesn't make sense. I feel like Jared would be able, well, maybe he knew Jared was going to be upset. He could have said that.
I feel like Jensen was in the wrong in the sense that he should have at least said, hey, I got a project coming up. I can't tell you because the NDA is what it is. I think you'll like what it is. There's a potential for you to be in it, or whatever. Even if he didn't want Jared in, which is weird. If he doesn't want Jared involved, that's a whole other thing, and that's scummy real bad in its own way. But like, but even if he's like, I think you'll be happy with it. I just can't say what it is, but just be looking for it. That'd been something. But you can tell he got caught flat-footed.
Oh,
like,
he
Jared didn't know shit about this.
Oh yeah.
Out.
So I definitely had, you know, more empathy for Jared. I already don't like Dean Winchester as it is, so you know, I was like, you fucking asshole. But then I heard, you know, Daphne's opinion on it, and I was like, no, you're right. You know, he didn't have to say shit, but I mean. And then everyone was like, well, you know, they're actors. They're not really brothers. They're not really close friends. And I was like, then don't pretend. You're not on the show anymore. Why are you still acting?
That's the part that got me, though, because they can say that, but the byline for those two, and I mean, because I've been a Supernatural fan since the Wendigo episode. That's the one that I remember, because it's a weird memory, but I mean, you got to go along with it, because this is how memories are formed. I remember I had a GameCube. I was playing Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube around the same time that episode came out, and I was like, I was like, oh shit, this show I'm going to watch from here on out, even if it wasn't the best intro to the show, because that episode kind of stinks.
I loved it. You still can't
season.
tell me different.
But I have that distinct memory of like in the time and place whenever I saw that, and like, and ever since, and roundabout way of saying the reason that it kills me about what they've stated there with them not being friends is they've always projected that image that they were best friends outside of the set, and like there was a little crack in the little, lie that's been told about that. Like, I mean, and I shouldn't feel betrayed by that, but as a longtime fan, I do feel betrayed by that because, I get this. I always got the sense that these guys were being genuine with me and that they really were. And and that whole blow up between two of them showed that there's something rotten in Denmark between the two of them.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. They were even in each other's weddings, and I know weddings can be staged, but I don't think these guys' weddings were staged. I don't think it's a public, their wives are for the most part unknown. They're known-ish, but they weren't anything huge or great prior.
Yeah, but they're mostly known for like shows that are on the CW that are like adjacent to Supernatural or whatever. So they're very like, in the same wheelhouse as Jared and Jensen too. So
exactly. But, so I don't know, like there's that aspect. I don't know. It did come off as a shock to me. It would almost be kind of funny to get, Daphne and I onto an episode where we're discussing some of this because she really does have good points. I do remember her telling me some of the things that, why she felt Jensen was right and Jared was wrong. She had a completely different opinion. I don't think she likes Jared at all. And I do. I'm more of a Moose kind of girl. But that just makes sense. I just like the bigger guys in general, and he's still skinny. So I'm just like, ew. But, regardless,
but he is taller as far as height goes.
Yes, taller and everything. So I don't know. And Jensen is absolutely her type, and I'm never going to fault her for that. We always joke about how you can have him. I don't want him,
Yeah, Sam was always my character in the show just because I felt closer to him. He was the bookworm that was kind of like dragged back into it. Dean was more of like the rough, almost redneck type character. And I don't know, I connected with that because even though I, hillbilly, whatever you want to call me, I was a book nerd, I had my head, I was reading like Stephen King novels all the time and shit like that. Like I wasn't like out there, like, anybody of my age was worked in a tobacco field at some point in time in their childhood, but like that wasn't what I, associated with as far as my, and so Jensen's character in that show always represented me more of like the, like good old boy type, and Jared was like the quiet, reserved, bookish type that I more associated with.
Like you would call Jared Bubba.
Basically, in a roundabout way. And then like there's something about the darkness and the fact, that he's got to him. Not that I have that issue myself, but like I feel that, and I feel a sympathy toward him because
I do,
like, but thanks everybody for listening to Supernatural podcast. All of a sudden here we are, but
Jared and Jensen, the J squared.
Well, we had to discuss it. I mean, that's how we even got to know each other. So it was going to happen at some point.
This is how we came to be.
Anything else before we get into plugs and all that and get out of here? So
I don't think so. Sunday nights, the guys are trying to do it every Sunday night, but shit happens. Hopefully they'll be on tonight, but you can catch Blue Collar BS. Oh, excuse me, the podcast formerly known as Blue Collar BS. Lean into it. Yes. They should be on tonight, just discussing, anything that's going to get your blood boiling, maybe a little bit, random stuff that's going on. Hey, maybe they'll talk about some balloons that have recently been popped, So you can take a listen to them. We are, Pacific Standard Time, Western Time, if you will. 8 p.m. is usually when they try to roll on. And they try to do it every Sunday night. If not, you can catch it when they post it on YouTube, which is also Lean Into It. Lean, and then N, and then number 2, it. I have to spell that out. Maybe I'll post it into our show notes or something. But for some reason, YouTube is weird now. So any videos that they post live it stays under the live tab on YouTube. So it doesn't just pop up as a video for some reason.
That's really weird.
Yes. So I'm going to have to, if we ever do live like that, I'm going to have to figure out how to move them, or we don't do that. I render our videos. So when we do them, we're going to get back to that soon too, hopefully. So anyways, that's it.
Just a future possible plug for us on this show. I mean, it's a last minute thing, but I was talking to somebody else, and then Scream Queens got mentioned, and I was like, oh, fuck, I completely forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no better season for us to discuss that show than on here. And we won't discuss part of season 2 because it kind of dumb and stupid to say, but the first season's got a good mix of horror and the humor to it or whatever. It's kind of a side project that Ryan Murphy did when he was doing American Horror Story. Has a lot of the same actresses he used in all those things, Emma Roberts. It has Jamie Lee Curtis, it's Niecy Nash is in it, several. I mean, what I want to do, and this is going to be a big thing if we can, because I mean we've got time constraints and our ability to do this, but I would like to do like a little small breakdown of each episode, per episode, instead of just doing one big entire show review. So I feel like this is a season to try to work that in if we're going to be able to get it done at any point. So be looking out for that. We'll try to do it. I mean, even if we just get one episode in, that'll at least make me happy that we attempted it, but I'm hoping we can continue through the whole thing, because I think that Llareyna is going to really dig some of the stupid ass tropes or whatever that they use, because Chad in the show, he is a Chad by all definitions of a Chad, is Emma Roberts' boyfriend in the show, and he is the dumbest motherfucker that has ever existed, and he is hilarious, and I love everything about his character. So there's that. But next thing we got is the Scream retrospective we're doing. We are hoping to follow that up with a review of its own of Scream 6 that's coming out. It's going to be out slightly after our retrospective, but we're going, and we're also hoping somewhere in the mix, if we can even find access to it. And it seems like they're making it very hard to do, which is stupid on their behalf.
Oh, man.
Facebook, you idiots. But Be Mine is a new Eli Roth movie that's got a very, very close look of the killer to Valentine. I don't know how they didn't get sued, but whatever. I mean, it's because to anything I've seen, it's not a spiritual. It's not even it's a spiritual successor, if anything. But there's no direct links to Valentine, even though the Cupid killer is almost the same exact look.
Yeah. If we can't find a way to watch it on the Oculus or Meta.
We might be able to watch it on Facebook itself or some other place. Although I feel like that's a movie that's going to be made specifically to be seen in VR.
Maybe. It might be. I was about to say, because probably the hubby can get it if it's a film at all. But I want to say that I read something that Eli Roth said, I'm making this specifically so you don't get dizzy, in the VR world. So I'm like, oh shit, maybe you do have to be in the VR so you can turn and do whatever,
Yeah, because they said it's going to have 360-degree movement, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more movies do that, but they're making it very hard to find this movie because they premiered it on the Meta World, something or other, and we've looked since then, and they're making it real hard to find it. So we'll do our best to kind of cover that.
Yeah.
At some point.
That'll be so cool.
But other than that, that's what we got coming up, and then we'll kind of go from there. Probably follow up the Scream series with as our April Fool's is going to be April Fool's Day and the original Scary Movie, because I mean it's a total. I mean it's just a complete Scream, parody with a little bit of I know what you did last summer thrown in. That's what it is.
Oh my God. I do want to say one thing too, is that sometimes I get, on Facebook, Messenger or whatever, or even text messages suggesting films that trust me, we are going to get to those films. But if you have a suggestion you think absolutely needs to fit in a season we're doing, because we're in slasher season right now. And so everything we're doing is solely for slashers. And then next season is going to be zombie season. So slasher season is kind of already planned, and we're kind of at capacity. So really, if you suggest something, likely we're going to get to it. If not, we're going to have another random down the road type of situation. But if you have any suggestions for zombie season you think we absolutely have to cover, hey, let me know. That's next season. Sorry, you got to wait. And I'll put it down. I'll add it to the pool, and the Reverend and I will discuss whether or not, we're fitting that in, or if we already have plans to discuss.
I mean, yeah, there's obviously going to be the basics. I mean, the Romero films and,
Yeah.
28 Days Later and all the staples, but there's going to be room there. I mean, this season's packed because slashers are one of the biggest genres. But I mean, like zombie season, there's, don't get me wrong, there's enough bad zombie movies to last us for like 3, probably full seasons if we was to go. But I mean, but if there's a good one out there and it's kind of underground, like by all means send it in, because I mean, I love zombie movies, so I'd be happy to check it out.
We'll do our best. We're definitely open to suggestions as best we can. We would love to hear back from everyone. We rarely get we got like Cody for sure. I got my bestie that constantly tells me here and there, well, he more or less gives us compliments, and that's great. But if there's anything you want us to try out or anything you want us to say, post a fucking meme on our Facebook page or, anywhere else on our social media. We like to see that shit. So interact with us. We're here.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of it. I mean, to get, kind of a more of an interaction with the people that's listening, kind of, tailor the show to what you want to hear. I mean, we got a basic format, but I mean, it can always be tweaked.
Yes.
So, I mean,
and just know, if you suggest something we've already done, for shame.
Go back and listen.
Yeah.
There's back episodes.
There sure is.
And with that, peace be with you.
And with your spirit.